Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the lesson on characterization. Today's learning objective is that we will be able to differentiate between different kinds of characters. So characters are usually split into different kinds of categories, and today we're going to look at some of those. Today's agenda, hopefully you copied your learning objective. We're going to have our lesson on characterization. Make sure that you are taking notes throughout. Always remember that you can pause these videos if you need a little extra time to take your notes. And then finally, at the very end, you're going to log on to Jupiter Grades and go to the assignment titled Characterization Lesson. So characterization is the description and development of characters in a story. So when it comes to description, we're talking, is the character tall or short? So the way that they look, do they have brown hair or blonde hair? And also you can describe the character's personality. Are they mean or are they nice? Then we have the development. So this is how the characters change over the course of the story. And this is a little bit more important than just the description. Okay, the development of the character is really primary. It's important to keep in mind who makes these decisions when it comes to a character being developed. And the answer is that the authors make these decisions. Nothing in a story is just random. It doesn't randomly happen. Okay, authors are making millions of choices when they are writing a story. So never forget the author and that the character was chosen to be a certain way. And you should be thinking, why would an author choose for the character to be like this? What purpose does it serve? So when it comes to the kinds of characters, first there are what's called flat characters. Now flat characters have no depth and are unchanged from the beginning to the end of the story. They are usually static, and we'll get to static in a little while. All right, so no depth and are unchanged. So for example, in a story about a friendly teacher named Sandra Smith, Louis Drudd is a janitor in her building. Louis is always tired and grumpy whenever Sandra runs across him and says hello. So the fact that he doesn't change because he is always grumpy means that he's a flat character. Now, round characters. Round characters are complex and well-developed characters who demonstrate varied and sometimes contradictory traits. Round characters are usually dynamic, which means that they change in some way over the course of the story. We'll get to that in a little while. So the important thing with round characters, okay, they're complex and well-developed. Okay? So an example would be a character in a story named Elaine never cuts anybody a break. She tells her friends and co-workers that charity and compassion have no place in society. On the other hand, Elaine can never pass up feeding a stray kitten or puppy and always tries to find good homes for lost or abandoned pets. So here we have a complex character. Okay, when it comes to helping others, okay, she's, especially humans, she has a pretty hard stance on it, but when it comes to animals, she's actually very loving and giving. So it seems to be somewhat contradictory in the terms of when and how to help. Next, we have dynamic characters. A dynamic character changes during the course of a story or novel. The change in the character is permanent. Sometimes the dynamic character is called a developing character. Right? So if a character starts out one way and changes by the end, they are known as dynamic. So let's look at an example. Ebenezer Scrooge, in A Christmas Carol by Dickens, was very stingy with his money. He worked his employees very, very hard for little pay. after his experiences with the ghosts that visited him, he changed his ways, paying his employees a more than fair wage and providing days off work and actually giving gifts. So here we see a dynamic character because in the beginning he was very stingy and at the end he's very giving. So there we have the change. And next we have static characters. A static character remains primarily the same throughout a story or a novel. The events in the story do not alter a static character's outlook, personality, motivation, perception, habits, or anything else. Okay, the character starts out one way, and at the end of the story, they're that same exact way. No change. So an example of this would be Bert. He's a bumbling salesman, never takes the time to organize his files or properly record his sales or follow up with customers. Finally, his boss gets fed up and fires him. Bert struggles for 2 months to find a new sales position. During that time, his car is repossessed for non-payment, and he maxes out his credit cards. Bert finally finds a new sales position, but before a week passes, he's called into a conference with his new boss. Bert is informed that he must get organized or he'll be fired. A week later, the new boss fires Bert after he fails to follow up with an important customer. So in this case, Bert starts out being disorganized, not following through, and at the end, he's still the same exact way. He's not learning from any of his mistakes. Another category of character is protagonist. The protagonist is the leading character, sometimes considered a hero or a heroine of a drama or other literary work. The reader or audience empathizes with the protagonist. Okay? It's important to remember that this character does not have to be the good guy. Then we have the antagonist. The antagonist is the person or thing that opposes or is in conflict with the protagonist. It's important to note the antagonist is not always a bad guy. So when you think of antagonists, okay, it could be the man who drops things from the window right onto your head. It could be society, okay, a whole group of people, okay, that's in conflict with the protagonist. It could be a storm, okay, or other kinds of weather phenomena. Okay, here we have a huge wave, and if you look really closely at this lighthouse, there's a little man standing right here with that wave coming through. If he's our protagonist, this wave would certainly be our antagonist. It could be the bully at school. It could be something more traditional, like our traditional villains. But it's also important to remember that it could be the girl next door. She's just as likely to be an antagonist as a protagonist. So, next steps. If you need to rewatch the video, you certainly can. Go to Jupiter Grades, click on Tests and Lessons. It'll be a column on the left-hand side, and answer the questions and make sure that you hit Submit. Hope you all had a great day and a good evening. Night.